Thank you for watching or listening to this free podcast of the Young Turks. We want to make sure that you get some portion of the show every day, but if you want the full show, which is actually 5 segments, come become a member and support independent media as well. tytnetwork.com/join. Meanwhile, enjoy the free podcast. All right, well, it's Tuesday. It's a giant election day. It's Cenk Uygur, it's Anna Kasparian. Later on, we will have John Iadarola and Michael Schur and Emma Vigeland and Allison Hartson and Kara Eastman. You guys remember Kara Eastman? She's the one that pulled off the stunning upset in Nebraska. And Politico mentioned her as like, well, yeah, but our revolution didn't endorse her. But neglected to mention the Just Democrats did and wrote no positive coverage about that.
I love the sodium content.
Oh yeah, I got plenty of salt today, guys. Hopefully by the end of the night we'll have plenty of sugar too. Okay, so 8 states are voting, and I need you to do 2 things. One is panic. If the polls have not closed in any of these places yet, Alabama, California, Iowa, Mississippi, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, and South Dakota. So go out and vote. But hold, I need you to panic in a second. First, download the TYT app so that you can watch the show anywhere, including while you're driving. Don't watch, just listen when you're driving. Okay, and then when you're at the voting booth and throughout. So tyt.com/app, or just go to the App Store and type in TYT. And then panic, go out there and vote. California polls are open for another 5 hours. Obviously, the candidate we support the most is Allison Hartson, at least I do. And Allison is the uncorrupted candidate, ran Wolfpack to get money out of politics, et cetera. You guys know that. So if you haven't voted yet, more important, no, nothing's more important than that. But if you don't live in California, I'm gonna give you a task right now. Think about it. Because you know someone who lives in California. You actually do. Okay, you might know a lot of people who live in California.
That's right. It's a big
family,
state.
friends, etc. It's a giant state.
A lot of people.
It's the 5th largest economy in the world just by itself. Okay, so please contact them right now. Tell them to go out and vote. Vote for Allison Hartson. Vote for Just Democrats in their neck of the woods. There's 7 Justice Democrats that are running in California alone, let alone Cedillo Lopez in New Mexico, Heenan in Montana, Peter Jacobs in New Jersey, and many more. Go to justdemocrats.com, click on the candidates, find the ones that are closest to you, then do the 2 panic steps. Download TYT app and then get to the voting booth, okay? Or get your family and friends there. Now, we've got the show, regular show here, 6 to 8 p.m. 8 p.m., we start mega election coverage. Probably go about 5 hours tonight on top of the regular show. So everybody buckle up, and let's hope the establishment has braced for impact. So at the end of the night, and look, if you guys are missing the election coverage, you're making a giant mistake, and I don't want you to make giant mistakes. I want you to be happy with your life, okay? Because these election nights, okay, these election nights are really, really dramatic. I mean, John and I have been through a lot of these now. Yeah. I'm calling John Epic Jr. Okay, so Epic Jr. and Epic Senior will be here tonight. And so there'll be ups and downs. We win almost all the time in the beginning. There's a bunch of wins early, and we're like, and then in the middle, I'm hurt, dog. Don't ask me if I'm all right. A bunch of like great Justice Democrats or progressives lose. And then at the end of the night, I don't know why it happens like this, but it happens almost every time like this. All of a sudden, here comes Kara Eastman, right? Or Trevino or Wilson or all these other guys. And so probably some sort of pattern like that will happen again tonight, and it is thrilling, sometimes terribly disappointing, and sometimes totally euphoric. So hopefully you'll be along with the ride with us throughout, and of course members get everything, and we put it up for you as soon as we can, ad-free, tyt.com/join, and thank you to the members for making all this possible. Okay, lots of show, let's do it.
All right. The White House has officially called off this year's Super Bowl celebration, which of course would celebrate the Eagles' Super Bowl win. And there has been a lot of spin going on, a lot of drama, a lot of propaganda, and we're going to go through all of it. First, let me just say that the White House official said that only about 10 people, 10 members of the team were planning to attend the celebration on the South Lawn despite weeks of planning for the event. Now, that is the heart of the story. That is the reason why Trump has decided to call off this celebration. But he made it seem as though he's calling it off, or it's being canceled because the players don't want to stand for the national anthem. He said the following: the Philadelphia Eagles are unable to come to the White House with their full team to be celebrated tomorrow. They disagree with their president because he insists that they proudly stand for the national anthem, hand on heart, in honor of the great men and women of our military and the people of our country. So again, fewer than 10 people said that they would show up. And because of that, he decided to cancel. But keep in mind, there are fans of the Philadelphia Eagles who plan on showing up to the celebration. Even though it's only about 10 players who said that they would show up, 10 players still wanted to show up, but he wanted to cancel it anyway. Now, Sarah.
One quick piece of context there. Originally, about 80 were slated to come. And then they started peeling off and saying, we're not going to attend, players, coaches, et cetera. And it's not because the anthem, as Anna explained, and we have great details on that, but because they were concerned about Donald Trump being divisive, and he proved him right by being more divisive and then blaming them for it.
So before we continue on with the rest of the story, I want to make clear that during the season, not a single one of the Philadelphia players kneeled during the national anthem. All of them stood for the national anthem. And so this isn't really about the national anthem. As Cenk mentioned, this is about Trump being as divisive as he is. Now, the NFL did make a decision about kneeling during the national anthem, and they said that any player who refuses to stand on the field will be penalized in some way. But again, it's more about frustration over this issue becoming so incredibly politicized. Now, with that said, let's hear from Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who of course was asked about this issue during her press briefing. Take a look.
He's suggesting this is about the national anthem. Is the president aware that not a single player on the Eagles through the entire season knelt for the national anthem?
The president's position on not just the anthem has been clear, but let's not forget this isn't. There were 80 members of the Eagles organization that RSVP'd and committed to attend this event. The Eagles are the ones that tried to change their commitment at the 11th hour, and the president frankly thinks that the fans deserve better than that.
So the fans deserve to be able to go to the White House and celebrate. And since he has kind of canceled this event, the 10 players who agreed to come won't be showing up. So you're actually penalizing the fans here. There will be some sort of event at the White House. Trump said more than 1,000 fans who had been invited to the celebration would still be welcome at the White House for what the president called a different type of ceremony, one that will honor our great country, pay tribute to the heroes who fight to protect it, and loudly and proudly play the national anthem.
Okay, so let's dive into a number of different issues here. One is the politics of this, and the secondly is the substance of it. So in terms of the politics, I think he's made a terrible mistake here. So Philadelphia is in the state of Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania narrowly voted for Trump last time. And if you think that Philly fans are going to be with you instead of the Eagles who just won the Super Bowl, I think you are gravely mistaken. There is a limit to Trump fervor, even among MAGA people, and that probably is right at the edge of their sports teams. And since this is a more of a pop culture kind of story, it will get people to pay attention that don't normally pay attention to politics. And it's not just about the city of Philly. Philly wasn't going to vote for Trump anyway. But it is about the suburbs, and it's about half the state of Pennsylvania that roots for the Eagles. The other half roots for the Steelers. Let's keep it real. It's 2/3 Steelers. Still, it's a big part of the state that roots for the Eagles. And so for them, what does it look like? It looks like Trump was being a child. And this they can understand. This is not complicated policy. They might not know that the tax cut went largely the top 1%, and they got $61,000 tax cut on average for those millionaires. But when Trump goes, oh, yeah, well, I didn't want him coming anyway. Any sports fan knows that's a kid, that's a child, that's a baby, right? Mm-hmm. And it doesn't play well. The Eagles are not up for election. They had an election, it was called the Super Bowl, and they kicked ass. So remember, the Eagles fans are the rowdiest, most obnoxious fans in the country in a wonderful way.
We need to talk about a relatively new show called the Republic, or UNFTR. As a Young Turks fan, you already know that the government, the media, and corporations are constantly peddling lies that serve the interests of the rich and powerful. But now there's a podcast dedicated to unraveling those lies, debunking the conventional wisdom. In each episode of the Republic, or UNFTR, the host delves into a different historical episode or topic that's generally misunderstood or purposely obfuscated by the so-called powers that be, featuring in-depth research, razor-sharp commentary, and just the right amount of vulgarity. The UNFTR podcast takes a sledgehammer to what you thought you knew about some of the nation's most sacred historical cows. But don't just take my word for it. The New York Times described UNFTR as consistently compelling and educational, aiming to challenge conventional wisdom and upend the historical narratives that were taught in school. For as the great philosopher Yoda once put it, you must unlearn what you have learned. And that's true whether you're in Jedi training or you're uprooting and exposing all the propaganda and disinformation you've been fed over the course of your lifetime. So search for UNFTR in your podcast app today and get ready to get informed, angered, and entertained all at the same time.
So are a lot of people in Philly. I went to school in Philly, and I love that. I love that as part of the culture. They once booed Santa Claus. You think they're going to draw the line at Trump? Like, oh, no, Trump, no, I can't touch Trump, right?
Why? What's the beef with Santa Claus? Is there a war on Christmas there or something?
I mean, they probably would spin it that way. No, they were in a surly mood, and the team was doing miserably. Santa came out at halftime. They're like, boo, Siktalan. They started throwing snowballs at Santa. Okay, you don't want to mess with Philly fans. I mean, this is a fight that you cannot win. I don't care if you're Donald Trump or otherwise.
That is amazing. I didn't know that story. Okay, so let me give my quick point of view, and I want to hear what you have to say about it. Look, I find it fascinating that when it comes to First Amendment issues, no one freaks out about what the president says, what the president does. Look, I know that the waters are a little murky in regard to whether or not Trump's actions violate the Constitution, the First Amendment specifically, because he would have to take some sort of action against NFL players who kneel. And right now he is making it appear as though he is taking action against these players because of their stance on kneeling, even though that's not really the case. When it comes to the Second Amendment, if there is even a tiny suggestion of a mediocre policy that would control guns to a small extent, people lose their minds and say that it is a violation of the Second Amendment. But when it comes to the First Amendment, you have a president who talks about getting those sons of bitches off the field if they refuse to stand. That was a tweet that he had. So that was action number one. And then now he is presenting himself as someone who's taking action against them because of their stance on kneeling, even though that's not really the case, obviously.
It's actually much worse than that because Trump threatened their tax cuts. So in two different ways. So now that is not, hey, Berkeley decided not to allow someone to speak, or a private institution, or a company decided to fire someone for saying the wrong thing. They have every right to do that, right? Whether you agree or I agree or not, right? This is now the US government, core First Amendment issue, saying if you let those people speak in any way, shape, or form in a way that I do not like, I will actually punish you, financially punish you, to the tune of, by the way, hundreds of millions of dollars. He attacked the NFL owners, and if you're wondering why the NFL caved, you're like, well, these guys are incredibly rich, powerful, they get all these giant contracts. Why would they cave to Trump because he's yelling on Twitter? Because it wasn't just the yelling. He said, well, you guys get a lot of tax breaks in your cities to build these stadiums. Maybe I take those away. Now they do, and maybe we should take those away, but not for this reason. And so the NFL owners were like, wait a minute. Somebody's onto us that we get a totally unfair advantage from the cities and states that we basically hold hostage, right? So that's when they started sweating. And then later, apparently, he called for and talked to Republicans in Congress about excluding the NFL owners from the tax cuts that the rich were going to get.
Okay, so that is a huge violation of the First Amendment. That is a huge violation. Attempting to take punitive action against NFL teams because of their stance on the national anthem, because they have the audacity to protest in a peaceful way to draw attention to a very legitimate issue in the country. I mean, this man does not respect the Constitution. I would be shocked if he even knows what's in the Constitution. But again, no one really makes a big deal about that. They make a huge, huge deal about the Second Amendment, but every other amendment in the Constitution doesn't really matter.
All right, so now let's go to the substance of it. That's obviously a part of the substance, which is a gross violation of the Constitution that everybody's largely ignoring in these stories. Number two is, look, I think the media is hugely responsible here, and I'll tell you why. Every time that they talk about this national anthem story, they present the Republican and Trump point of view, and that's why Trump does it. It's actually very effective. To be fair to him, that propaganda does work. He goes, they're disrespecting our military and our country, right? So, well, then the media, it's your job to give it context. Every time you should explain that they're taking a knee has nothing to do with protesting the military or the troops.
That's right.
It has everything to do with protesting cops. And you know what? You can get angry about that. That's fine. But at least be accurate that they are worried about the disproportionate use of force against African Americans. Secondarily, and these are the bare minimums that the media should do, they should point out that it's true. There is disproportionate use of force, disproportionate arrests of African Americans as opposed to whites in this country. We've gone over the numbers on 100 different cases. The one that sticks out the most, white people, black people in this country smoke pot at the same rate. African Americans get arrested at 4 times the rate. So that's your bare minimum. Once you get past that, I wish they would do this. We do this. But you could also point out the hypocrisy of Trump. Here's Cadet Bone Spurs. He got 5 deferments from Vietnam. You want to talk about respecting the country and the flag and our troops?
So that's an action he took. But then, while he's talking about actual veterans, he feels the need to insult them. Insulting a Muslim family whose son died as he was a member of our military. That happened throughout his campaign. Also, the fact that he was talking about John McCain as, someone that he insulted him several times, saying that he prefers people who aren't prisoners of war or who weren't prisoners of war. I mean, this man has openly and transparently disrespected veterans over and over again. And somehow it seems as though he is just immune to any type of criticism from his supporters who claim that they love our veterans and our military.
He said that he demanded that the Eagles, quote, pay tribute to the heroes who fight to protect the flag and loudly and proudly play the national anthem, that's what they would do at the White House, right? So first of all, trumpeting your patriotism loudly is a telltale sign of being a fake patriot. So you know what could have shown patriotism and paid tribute to the heroes who fight to protect it is if you were among those heroes, Donald Trump, and you had every opportunity to do so. You got 5 deferments from Vietnam. Now, so I'm going to go over one part of this story because it's important. He said he had bone spurs in the 5th deferment. When they asked him during the campaign, which foot did you have the bone spurs in? He said, I don't remember. Then later he said, maybe both. Okay. So obviously didn't have bone spurs. His daddy got a doctor, paid off a doctor to write a note so somebody else could go die for Donald Trump. So Ben told this story on a previous episode of Old School, on the last episode. And if, by the way, become a member, get all of our shows, including Old School, tyt.com/join. And it was a great episode. And in that episode, he explained Bruce Springsteen and what happened with him in Vietnam. Bruce, his dad was like an old school tough guy dad. Bruce went to go join the war effort. So and he didn't make it. He didn't pass the medical. So he goes to tell his dad, and he's really worried about his dad's reaction. And his dad says, "Oh, thank God." Why? Because he didn't want his kid to die, right? But Bruce Springsteen said that he told his dad, "Dad, it's nothing to celebrate. Somebody else is going to go in my spot," right? See, that's a degree of understanding the sacrifice and appreciating it. That's being a true patriot. Donald Trump, after he got out of Vietnam, bragged that he had his own personal Vietnam, avoiding STDs at sex parties. He literally said that. He said it was my own personal Vietnam. He has no shame. And for him to claim that he stands for the flag and the patriots who fought to keep our freedom, it's a disgrace. Now, do you get that in every news story? No, you don't.
Not.
No, all you get is, well, I guess the players are against the anthem and the flag and the military, which is the exact opposite of what's true. I'll tell you, these Eagles are amazing. I wish they had kneeled during the anthem because they would have had every right to, and I think that's the right thing to do. They didn't, as it turns out. But don't underestimate their actions. Malcolm Jenkins is an amazing fighter for civil rights. Chris Long, who, by the way, is a white player, donated, not only is super active in social media fighting for justice, he donated every paycheck to charity.
Yeah, every paycheck to education.
Yeah, and would you have done that? I wouldn't have done that. I don't know anyone else who would have done that. Chris Long is an American hero, and you're going to talk to the Eagles about who are heroes and who are patriots?
And remember, the main reason why this is all happening is not because any of them did kneel during the national anthem, which, as Cenk mentioned, they had every right to do. It's all because many of them decided not to show up to the White House for this celebration.
And that would have hurt poor Donald Trump's feelings.
That's right.
And we do know that he does not have a good time with Eagles, that, to be fair.
Look, Eagles, I've seen bald-headed Eagles, bald-headed.
Bald-headed.
I've seen bald eagles up close and personal. They are very intimidating and scary. So I can't believe I'm giving him credit, but I would also be frightened. Okay, moving forward, there's another part of the story that I think is incredibly important to talk about. Following Trump's decision to cancel the White House celebration of the Philadelphia Eagles,
at TYT, we frequently talk about all the ways that big tech companies are taking control of our online lives, constantly monitoring us and storing and selling our data. But that doesn't mean we have to let them. It's possible to stay anonymous online and hide your data from the prying eyes of big tech. And one of the best ways is with ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN hides your IP address, making your activity more difficult to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your network data to protect you from eavesdroppers and cyber criminals. And it's also easy to install. A single mouse click protects all your devices. But listen, guys, this is important. ExpressVPN is rated #1 by CNET and Wired magazine. So take back control of your life online and secure your data with a top VPN solution available, ExpressVPN. And if you go to expressvpn.com/TYT, you can get 3 extra months for free with this exclusive link just for TYT fans. That's expressvpn.com/TYT. Check it out today.
there was a lot of spin in the right-wing media about who these players are and what they've done. In fact, there was a misrepresentation of them kneeling during the national anthem throughout the season, which did not actually happen. Not a single player kneeled during the national anthem throughout the season. There was one player who did in the preseason, but he didn't even play in the regular season. So now with that said, keep in mind that Fox News specifically ran still images of Eagles players kneeling, and they represented it as them kneeling during the national anthem, when in reality, they were kneeling during prayer way before the national anthem even played. Why would they do that? Gee, I wonder why. Okay. Also, after Trump falsely implied that players of the Philadelphia Eagles protested during the national anthem, Fox News aired a segment that furthered Trump's lies. And I'll give you an example. By the way, the specific segment that I talked about earlier has been scrubbed from the records. It's nowhere to be found online. They did issue an apology because the criticism was overwhelming. But there were similar narratives playing out in other shows. So let's take a look at Fox and Friends.
The president's very simple on this. He says there are certain things that you do. When you are invited to the White House, you go and you go proudly. When the national anthem plays, you stand and you put your hand over your heart.
Not really. Not if you have 9 instead of 70. That is an outright disrespect to the president.
I wonder if any of the members of the Gold Star families yesterday at that event would have said we don't want to come to the White House.
Look,
what a difference, right?
Same thing with the Warriors. Right. I don't feel like I want to go. I don't like this president. They spend the whole season criticizing the president.
There seems to be a disconnect between the people in the NFL and the American public. So ultimately, the president realizes the people are probably on his side.
Listen to this mayor, a fragile egomaniac. What does he understand about the Eagles weren't going to show up? 9 players are showing up.
Ultimately, though, this historically is a non-political event.
Okay, can I just, let me give you context on that, because that is not really true. Now, a lot of people, a lot of athletes have started not showing up at the White House because Donald Trump attacks them. So he made it political. It's not like, hey, I didn't like the president because of his stance towards Puerto Rico, which is a fair thing to say. No, in the case of the NFL, he said, you all should be fined or maybe fired if you speak out in a way that I don't approve of, which, by the way, is political correctness. And so you blame people for not showing up to a guy who wanted them fired if they dared to speak out as an American? And then he called them un-American, let alone Chris Long donating every check that he gets in all the games to charity, let alone the work Jenkins and others on the Eagles have done. Carson Wentz has raised money for the people of Haiti. These are all like amazing guys, and he has the nerve to call them un-American. But it's not just about Trump. Other people have not shown up to meet presidents before. And the one famous case that I'm going to tell you about where Fox was on the exact opposite side. But before I get to that, I did not know this. Larry Bird apparently skipped a visit with Ronald Reagan. Okay, now Larry Bird's a hero to a lot of those folks, but they don't know his actual views. Okay, and so now I remember in my lifetime when I first noticed it, to be honest, was Mark Chmura, who made a big deal. It was a tight end for the Packers. They won the Super Bowl, and he said, I will not go see Clinton, because he thought Clinton was had the wrong morals. And, Monica Lewinsky affair and all that whole thing. So Chmura made a big deal about it. At the time, the right wing was like, what a patriot Mark Chmura is.
That does not surprise me at all.
And they're like, that is what a true American does. He makes sure that he does not go and see the man who sullied the White House.
And imagine what their reaction would be if Clinton took some sort of action against the player, right, who decided to protest and not go to the White House for the celebration. Just imagine what their reaction would be. Like, that's the part that gets to me. Like, right now, the right wing is wholly supportive of our president taking punitive action against anyone who disagrees with him. And by the way, it goes further than this whole NFL story. He's threatened to take press credentials away from media that criticizes him. He can't handle any criticism, which is a scary thing to consider as someone who's the president of the United States. He's supposed to be criticized by the media. The media is supposed to hold him accountable for his actions.
By the way, a disastrous ending to that Mark Chmura story. Chmura, the man who was worried about Bill Clinton's morals, later charged with sexually assaulting his 17-year-old babysitter.
Jeez.
Now, he was acquitted, but did say at the end, it's probably things I shouldn't have been doing as a married grown man. Okay, but he was worried about Bill Clinton's morality. And if you were worried about Bill Clinton's morality, wait till you get a load of Donald Trump. So finally, you might be wondering, why did Fox News apologize? They almost never apologize. They almost never correct the story. Well, a lot of the players they were showing were white, okay? Now, this is my thesis. They're on the record for correcting the story and saying they were wrong. But it wasn't just they were white. The reason they were on a knee, that Fox pretended it was because it was during the anthem. But the real reason is that they were praying. So guys like Zach Ertz, the tight end for the Eagles, is like, wait, you're going to get on me for praying before a game and all of our teammates for praying before the game? It's like, what kind of propaganda is this? Now, I don't know Ertz's politics at all. Right? But when you have all the players saying, you're criticizing us for praying, all of a sudden, and a lot of those players, again, are mixed, black, white, etc., and maybe mixed in Democrats, Republicans, and the word gets out, and all the local papers in New Jersey and Philly covered it, all of a sudden Fox is like, yeah, no. I mean, okay, fine. We were pretending it was during the anthem, but it wasn't. But it's our honest mistake.
Yeah, by the way, I wanted to read a few tweets to you from those who kept pushing this narrative that it's all because they didn't stand for the national anthem. First, Charlie Kirk, who spreads ridiculous, nonsensical propaganda onto college campuses and pretends like he's an incredibly smart person, tweeted the following: if you refuse to stand for the national anthem, you have no business being honored at the White House by our president. So in other words, he is supportive of elected officials, punishing people who refuse to show honor to them. Kind of like what dictators do, right? Don't dictators do that? Isn't that something that you were concerned about under the Obama administration? And
secondly, I thought the conservatives on campus were most worried about freedom of speech.
Yeah,
my God, Ben Shapiro didn't get paid $20,000 from you students to speak here. I'm worried about free speech.
And their argument, which by the way, this is a correct argument, is that on publicly funded college campuses, free speech matters, right? You can't have, the administration banning certain forms of speech just because they don't like it, and I agree with that. But guess what else is funded by taxpayer dollars? The White House. Government. Government is paid by us, the American people. So we have the right to exercise our free speech and criticize the president or decide to kneel during the national anthem if we want to raise awareness about a legitimate issue of police brutality in the country. He's very smart. Like, that's what you hear over and over again. They keep perpetuating this nonsensical talking point about how smart these young conservatives are. Yet they're hypocritical at the very least and incredibly uneducated on what our Constitution is and what the freedom of speech means, what the First Amendment means, and what our protections are.
So we are consistent. We defend the conservatives' right to go speak at those universities. Now, Charlie Kirk, do you understand, and all the other so-called intellectuals? I don't know that anybody's actually calling Charlie an intellectual, but I'm always
definitely.
amused.
I mean, Candace Owens called him the smartest person she's ever met over and over again.
No, to be fair, he might be the smartest person Candace has ever met.
That's true.
Okay, it's a really low bar. Anyway, so Charlie, do you understand that the president threatening punitive action, including legal action and financial action against the NFL owners and the players if they don't fine or fire the players for speaking, is actually a core First Amendment issue? That is the government taking action to prevent your free speech. And yes, the Supreme Court has ruled over and over again, physical acts like taking a knee or raising your fist or even staying in the locker room. Yes, that is an expression of speech. It's a very obviously political speech. They're making a political point about police abuse.
Right.
So the reality is, if you're against that, you should never, ever mention free speech again, because you do not understand the concept at all, and you're not in favor of the First Amendment.
And one more tweet from Britt McHenry. This is my favorite. Can't wait for Eagles players to use this as an opportunity to virtue signal. That's all we need to read. I just wanted to read the virtue signal. There is nothing more apparent, or there's no better example of virtue signaling than talking about how you are more patriotic than everyone else because you support standing during the national anthem. They always project, always, over and over again. You are virtue signaling in your tweet. Your tweet is an example of virtue signaling.
Anna, I missed that, and I love that you caught that. Wrapping yourself in the flag is as virtue signaling gets.
I'm very patriotic, everyone. I need to let everybody in the world know that I would stand during the national anthem, and I would punish people if they refuse to do so.
And by the way, you conservatives, you're sure you're tougher than the Philadelphia Eagles? You want to get in the ring with them and see what happens? I don't counsel it. But hey, have at it, Hoss.
All right, let's take a break. There's lots of other news to discuss today.
You're right in the middle of this podcast. We got another great segment coming up for you. If you'd like the full show, which is actually 5 segments, go to tytnetwork.com/join. You become a member, you support the show, you support independent media, and you get the whole 2-hour show ad-free every day. Let's go do it now. Okay, we're back. You guys are gonna love this, although I don't. So Rakefoot, who gave the $500, turns out not $500, 500 Swedish kroners, which turns out to be 20 schwang dollars.
Oh, no, but thank you still.
I'm kidding around. Well, it's true, but thank you anyway. And still $20. God bless your heart. Thank you, man. We do appreciate it. And then he sent another one. And this one was 200 kroners. He said, I stand up for everything that Donald Trump sits down for. I also think we should talk tariffs. In Sweden, we have specialized steelworks who are going to keep exporting, affecting the consumer in America. All right. And Tim apparently is his name. So Tim, thank you, brother. We appreciate it. YouTube Super Chat always helps the show. Oh, actually, real quick, let me read you the members of the day who make all this possible. Simon Lowen and Crystal Dahlberg. So thank you, Simon and Crystal. We appreciate it. tyt.com/join to become a member, and we give you the whole show ad-free. You can do audio or video. Now the app is a great way for not just everybody can watch the show. You should have it with you at all times. When we go live, you'll be able to see us live, whether you're a member or not a member. For the members, it makes it super convenient to watch. I think you guys are gonna love it. So everybody go to tyt.com/app or just enter TYT in the App Store. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has announced that the Senate will skip much of its August recess. He announced by saying the following: due to the historic obstruction by Senate Democrats of the president's nominees and the goal of passing appropriations bills prior to the end of the fiscal year, the August recess has been canceled. So as you can see from his statement, he's doing this because of the obstruction by the Democrats in response to President Trump's nominees. But there are other theories, and my favorite theory, and the one that I personally believe is really at play here, has to do with how there are way more Democrats, incumbent Democrats in the Senate who are seeking re-election. And a lot of the lawmakers rely on that August recess to raise money and focus on their campaign. So this could potentially hurt them and their efforts to get re-elected. And keep in mind, there are way more Democrats who are up for re-election as opposed to Republicans.
So a couple points to this story. First of all, is it because of several different reasons? Yes. Are any of them legitimate? Almost none. And so let me explain one by one. So are they doing it because there's 10 Democrats that are up for re-election in Trump states and only one Republican up for re-election in a Hillary state? Absolutely. That's definitely why they're doing it. And in fact, Trump is insisting on that, which leads to reason number two. He's like, I don't get it. Why wouldn't you play politics? What are you guys, dumb? And by the way, that's kind of a fair point. I wish Obama played politics like that. I wish the Democrats played politics like that. But they don't. And so Trump threatened to criticize the Republican senators if they went on a break and didn't play this political trick. And so they're like, they got so scared of Trump, because they always do. They're afraid of their own shadow. They're not leaders, they're followers. So it would have been a double whammy. The Democrats would have got to campaign. And again, the reporters drive me crazy. They keep talking about how they want to go back to their districts. No, they want to go raise money.
That's right. Yeah.
They have to spend all day raising money and going to fundraisers with corporate donors. So just call it like it is. It's not like they're doing a lot of town halls. They're not doing the town halls. Please, for a second, be a reporter. So anyway, so because of that, they're like, okay, we hit the Democrats. We make sure Donald Trump doesn't hit us. And third of all, yeah, let's just just jam these nominees through, the Trump ones. And maybe we could pass a bill or two, but we already gave the tax cut to the rich, so we're kind of done here on that front. So on that note, CNN, to be honest, really pissed me off on this one, because like all other articles, they mentioned how Mitch McConnell said that the Senate Democrats had done, quote, historic obstruction. Now they're quoting McConnell. I get why they say that. But if you wanted to be a reporter, you would give that context. You wouldn't say, hey, I don't like Mitch McConnell or I don't agree with Mitch McConnell's policies. You would give it proper factual context, so which I'll do for you. So we're going to go to graphic 58, and what that's going to show you is historic obstruction. And you'll see where it began. And maybe you won't be able to tell. Can you tell where the historic obstruction began? The record number of filibusters? Okay, so it was 0 to 2 throughout most of modern history. Under Clinton, the Republicans start and they go to 9. The Democrats, of course, retaliate, but less, at 7 for Bush. That's, by the way, over 8 years, both of them. Then Obama comes into office. Then 27 in the first 4, 45 in the second 4, including a Supreme Court justice, right? That's historic obstruction. That's the context you need. You don't have to get upset about it. You don't have to have the opinions I have, but you should point it out. Otherwise, you've misled your audience into thinking, well, the Democrats are the ones that do obstruction, right? Yes. But it got worse. At the end of the CNN article on this, they said that Mitch McConnell, quote, boldly blocked Merrick Garland, President Barack Obama's choice for the Supreme Court.
Yeah, the bottom half of this article on CNN was just a laundry list of great things that they love about Mitch McConnell. It was incredible. I actually stopped reading it because I couldn't.
No, and so look, from time to time CNN has good articles, and we quote those and we use that, and we're happy to give them credit on it. I think that they have an establishment bias overall. Now, right now, a lot of times they'll have people speaking out against Trump. And then, of course, the right wing always calls them liberal. But it's not true. If you put Trump aside, they love giving credit to Republicans. And so this article is totally biased in favor of Republicans, not Democrats. So when framing the Democratic action, they go historic obstruction. Mitch McConnell said it, and I didn't say anything about it. It was historic obstruction.
I didn't look into it.
Right.
Yep.
Blocking a Supreme Court nominee for a whole year is unprecedented and literally historic. It's never been done in American history. It was historic obstruction. CNN frames it as he boldly blocked that nominee. So which one is it? Is obstruction bad or good? When it comes to the Democrats, it's bad. When it comes to the Republicans, it's bold and brilliant. So that's the bias you get in the establishment media.
Yeah. All right, moving on. Dinesh D'Souza has continued his press tour, and he is giving interviews to multiple shows on CNN, talking about how Trump has given him a full pardon of his convicted crime. And my favorite interview was the one done by Allison Camerata on New Day. I don't want to say any more. Just take a look at the first clip.
He basically said he wanted you to be a bigger voice than ever, defending the principles that you believe in. And so I want to just go through here what those principles are. February 2015, you tweeted about President Obama. And there are people here, racist overtones here. You can take the boy out of the ghetto, you say, watch this vulgar man show his stuff while America cowers in embarrassment. You had another tweet in 2010 about President Obama's father. You say this philandering, inebriated African socialist is what you call him. Oh, sorry, that's from a Forbes magazine. So I'm confused. What are the principles that you are hoping to be able to talk about now and spread?
Well, Allison, first of all, I'd be happy to talk about those two tweets. Obama's father was a philandering, inebriated African socialist, as a matter of fact.
And just out of that, hold on. Are you anti-philandering?
Look, I'm not talking about this. I was referring to Obama's book, Dreams from My Father. Hold on. Let me talk about principles.
And I want to know if your principle, are you anti-philandering? Are you anti-vulgarity in your first one?
Philandering is not a principle. What I was saying is that Obama claims himself that he derived his dreams, his principles, from his father.
Okay, that was one of the best things I've seen on cable news. So Allison Camerata comes with a 2x4. Love it. That's how you're supposed to do an interview. Whether it's a Republican or a Democrat, doesn't matter. Conservative or liberal, doesn't matter. Be tough, challenge your guests, and call them out. Now, if you're wondering why Dinesh was so
uncomfortable
and taken aback and got awkward, is it because Donald Trump has also famously philandered? Yes. And by the way, Obama didn't do the philandering. He claims his father did, okay? What his father has to do with Obama, no one knows. I don't know why he brought that up other than to call him an African socialist and to smear him overall, right? But there's one other part of the story. Dinesh D'Souza went to jail for illegal campaign contributions. By the way, he confessed to that crime and said that it was not a setup, that he did do it. That's what was in his plea deal, okay? And he would go to prison at jail at night and serve that sentence. Now, one of the people that he illegally funneled the money through was his mistress. So he got both his wife and his mistress to illegally give money to his friend who was running for a political position.
Yeah, it appears he is not anti-philandering. It appears that he's very pro-philandering.
Yes, well, philandering is not a principle. Apparently not, Dinesh.
Yeah, but there's more, there's more. This was such a great interview. Let's take a look at the next video.
Yeah. The very idea that you can define me by a tweet or two over a long career is preposterous.
I'm not trying to define you, but I am trying to figure out what your principles are. And they seem confusing because you are obviously a supporter of President Trump's. And the idea that you would go after President Obama's father for philandering and for being vulgar, that strikes some as hypocritical. Why aren't you speaking out about President Trump's philandering? Why aren't you speaking out about his vulgarity?
Well, look, My argument about Obama wasn't about philandering. Obama is not a philanderer. His father was, but Obama wasn't.
And so why did you bring that up then? And now he says, of course, now that Trump's got the pardon, and why Camerota brought it up in the first place is it has freedom to go talk about his really important principles.
Yes.
And so one of the principles apparently was that Obama was debasing the White House because he took a selfie.
I know.
That was the grave crime that Obama was charged with.
But, okay, so we all know we're now in the Trump era. We have seen also, he has shown himself to be quite vulgar in various situations. He has referred to NFL players who decide to kneel in protest, sons of bitches, just to give you an example. He says he likes to grab women by the pussy. I don't like to censor that word because that is the exact word that he used, okay? That is vulgar, right? But in the next clip, he continues to criticize Obama over the selfie stick.
Yeah. It's not a sleazy attack on an individual. It's an examination of ideas.
Okay, but when you say to somebody, you can take the boy out of the ghetto, it is a sleazy attack on an individual.
Well, look, here's Obama in the White House, and he's got this selfie stick, and he's running around looking in the mirror and making ridiculous faces.
And that's what
if people say that Trump has degraded the... Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead. So you find that more degrading than things that you've heard in the past year in terms of vulgarity coming from the White House?
Look.
Look.
We're looking and we're liking.
Oh, that was wonderfully embarrassing.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad he's there to spread those incredible ideas out to everybody. Remember, selfies are bad, what Trump is doing. And ridiculous faces? Have you seen Donald Trump? Hey, oh, hey, I got big, strong words and a big, strong face. And Obama was making faces? Come on.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, more fun, including Ted Cruz.
Can I just say, I'm not done with Dinesh yet. Hold on one more second. Ridiculous faces. Every time Camerota asked you a question, you were like this.
I know.
Look. We've been looking, brother, and it ain't pretty. All right, we'll be right back. Thanks for watching or listening to this free version of the Young Turks podcast. You know that the full show is at tytnetwork.com/join. If you become a member, you get the full show ad-free. We love you for watching or listening. Either way, there's going to be a new free podcast tomorrow. You can keep on doing that. But if you want to get the full show ad-free, tytnetwork.com/join. Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.